What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Camper Report. Man, it has been a crazy, obviously it's always crazy when the playoffs are coming up and a lot of things are happening. But this last week in football was just, I don't even know how to explain it. But we've got a lot to talk about. Joining me today is my brother, Joseph Kamperman. We talk a lot on the phone and we chop it up a lot about football. So when he has time, I love to bring him on the show. He knows a lot. Yeah. But first off, I want to say, the amount of football, we had upsets this week. We had just all sorts of type of just we had the biggest comeback in history. We had upsets, and
Crazy.
then we had obviously the Pro Bowl selections, which we'll briefly cover. That wasn't part of our topics, but we'll briefly cover it. So yeah, how are you doing today? And I'm excited to talk football. I mean, it's gonna be exciting.
I'm good. It's a busy time of the year. This is the best time. This is really when push comes to shove, when all the work that they did in training camp starts paying off. I mean, we've seen it
Yes.
already, but this is the good time of the year. This is time of the year where you really see the good teams separated from the great. I know that's super cliche, but I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to diving into this and discussing some football as usual. This time of year is crazy, but this weekend in particular made me realize why I love football so much. But also, I'm like sitting there going, "What in the world just happened?" Because we had some crazy
Yeah.
games. And unfortunately, it was like the one week I wasn't able to watch as much football. We had some crazy games on Saturday, and I was like, "Darn it! I wish I would have watched those Saturday games." But I got some highlights in, wild slate of games, and I have a feeling Saturday and Sunday could top that this weekend. The NFL has done a crazy job with Christmas weekend games, and some of these matchups are just great, and then some of them are not so great, and we'll get in that into our other
Yeah.
question section sector.
Yeah, well,
sector.
hold on. So what I'm real quickly looking up the Saturday games because John, one of our friend, John, but
Yeah.
one of our friend said that the 49ers Washington Commanders game was on Saturday. Is that true? I'm looking it
So
up
there's
right now.
the NFL
No,
has
it's
done
not
things
on
differently
Saturday.
this
Okay.
year. NFL has done things differently this year. They did normally they do a lot of games on Sunday, Christmas
Wait.
weekend. But what they've done is they've shifted all their
Oh,
games to Saturday, and they're only doing 3 games on Sunday. And the reason why is I think the NFL wants to make money off of Saturday games, off of Christmas games, but it's Christmas Day, and they want people to watch. It's all based off of viewers. And so they're doing
yeah.
3 Christmas games, and they're doing Christmas Eve, the whole slate. It's the first time we've seen it in almost a decade because it's been 8 years since Christmas has landed on a Sunday. So the NFL, as part of the collective bargaining agreement, I can almost guarantee you, said, look, we want games on Sunday because that's Christmas Day. And I think they met in the happy medium. You can have your 3 games on Sunday,
Yeah.
but the rest of them have to be on Saturday. It's a scheduling thing, but I have to laugh because Saturday night is the Raiders Steelers as the headlining Saturday night football. And both my coworker and I were talking about, we said the reason why, and I didn't realize this, I was like, what a crappy. I mean, if you had told
Yeah.
me at the beginning of the year that was it, I would have said it's not the best, but it's not terrible. Now they're both not great teams. Raiders are sort of trying to make this push, but they're not great. But it is the 50th anniversary of the
Yeah.
Immaculate Reception. If you did not know that, and so that's why it's fall. They're doing the Raiders Steelers because it's the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, and Franco Harris obviously passes away 2 days
Yeah.
before, and so rest in peace to Franco. But yeah, that's why the NFL scheduled it for that. So Saturday night football, we're not getting much of a show, but that's a little rabbit trail.
I did not because I'm sometimes a little bit I guess slow and I looked and I was looking at all the games, right? And I didn't seem to look and say I didn't seem to look at this dates of those games. So I was just scrolling
Yep,
through cuz we're all so accustomed to them all being on Sunday. I
exactly.
was like,
Yep.
yo, but oh wow, that's interesting. I actually like that better cuz
Oh yeah. I
Saturday
mean,
football early in the morning?
yeah. I
Wow.
mean, it's from a watching standpoint, it makes way for a lot of families trying to watch the holiday. Let's watch stuff on the holidays, but also not it being a jam-packed football where I think they would probably lose a lot of viewers because some people, will take time with their families. So it was a good happy medium, but I can guarantee you that was part of the collective bargaining agreement. The NFL wants Christmas Day games, but I think a lot of players were pushing for not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Christmas with their families. Yeah. Real quick before we get to the topics for the show today, or I think an hour ago, the NFL roster, Pro Bowl rosters came out. Isn't this year the Pro Bowl game it's a flag football game, right? It's not.
It is, and there's a whole bunch of games. They're bringing back
It's kind of stupid, but
I mean, I get it. To be fair, the Pro Bowl was sort of a joke in the last couple 5-6 years. After a big injury happened to, I want to say was it Tyler Croft? It was a Bengals tight end, I think. Someone tore their ACL or really badly injured in the Pro Bowl game. And I think after that, you saw more and more players either elect to not go because they were nursing injuries still, or just didn't really give it their all, and so I think the NFL, they knew they had to change something. It's tough because the NBA All-Star game is such a fun game, but it's not a physical sport like football. And especially if you suffer a season-ending injury in the Pro Bowl, you're missing the first couple of weeks of the season. And I think a lot of players, they tried to pay them more one year, I believe. It didn't really work. And I think finally the NFL just have to say, you know what? We're going to have to cut our losses, and we're going to have to just go with these Pro Bowl games. I think it's going to be great. I'm not going to watch them probably. I watched the dodgeball. That was really fun. I'm not going to watch them, but, it's still important that they have players elected because but, the Pro Bowl is sort of becoming more and more of a joke in a way when it comes to election. We can get to that briefly, but I didn't see a ton of stuff,
do you want me to name out our respective players?
Yeah, let's do it.
Eagles. Well, sorry, our team's respective players. I mean, we don't have to go through every roster. Eagles have Jalen Hurts, and then they have AJ Brown. That's no surprise. And then I'm looking Lane Johnson. Let's see, Landon Dickerson. Jason Kelsey. That's no surprise, which is kind of nice for Jason Kelsey because this is most likely his last year.
Yep.
We have. Let's see. You could probably get Hassan Reddick, and then we have Darius Slay. That's no surprise.
Miles Sanders.
Missing any other ones? Miles Sanders? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Miles Sanders. You've got Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Lane
I'm just
Johnson,
looking at the rosters. I'm just
Landon
scrolling
Dickerson,
down.
Jason Kelsey, and then the outside linebacker, Hassan Reddick, and we have Darius Slay. The catch is that Javon Hargrave, the highest vote getter in the NFC, he's also leads defensive tackles with sacks, got snubbed out for Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, and Aaron Donald. I'm going to be honest, this is one of those situations where I think Dexter Lawrence and Jonathan Allen deserve it. But this Aaron Donald thing, he's one of the best linemen, but he's missed the last 2 or 3 games. He can't I would have voted Javon Hargrave above him, but if they're only having 3 interior linemen, which they are, you're not having Jonathan Allen. You're not having Javon go in, which is crazy because he leads defensive tackles with sacks and he's the top NFC vote getter. But they want to see Aaron Donald in the Pro Bowl, and so that's a total marketing thing. So.
And another thing is it's all about the fan votes. And so if I'm a little pissed because if you're not a superstar that has made the Pro Bowl year after year, somebody that is new and up and coming, like the 49ers, Dre Greenlaw, who essentially got snubbed, or I think got snubbed, who is having his best season of his career, I would think better than Fred Warner almost. Is a guy that is going to get subs.
There's a lot of first-time vote getter. There's a lot of first-time people invited. So it's cool to see Miles Sanders there. He's really come on the last couple of weeks of the season, and he's played really good football. But defense is always a tough one because defense, it's one thing when you get receiving yards and you get rushing yards. And we start getting to the linebackers and you're starting to tackles and stuff. Maybe some people don't value tackles as much, tackles for a loss. Sacks always stand out, but if you're like a middle linebacker, you're probably not going to stand up there in sacks. And so, like, how do you vote that? How do you get that right? Do you
Yeah.
just vote off the tackles? It's a tough one. So, but
Yeah, for sure.
who
49ers, I
you
think
guys have 6, right?
we had Kittle, obviously. Kittle is kind of like, I don't even know why he did not have a that good year, but I guess whatever. And then we
The
had
tight end
Juszczyk,
position. I mean, it would have been, I think, what's it called? If he
Wa-
wouldn't have gotten hurt, the Eagles
Goddard.
tight end
Yeah.
Goddard would have been ahead of Kittle, I think, but he's missed the last 4 games, so of course. So
Yeah. We had Kittle, we had Juszczyk, we had
of course.
Warner, Hufanga, Bosa, obviously, and then Trent Williams, which, I mean, that's no surprise. Charvarius Ward had done pretty good this year. I could understand why he didn't make it, because he had a few games where he kind of got cooked, like by the Chiefs and a few other teams. So I could see why they didn't put him in there.
That's a
but
tough
I
one.
don't know.
Yeah, corners a difficult one, because if you look at corners like James Bradbury,
You also like it also depends. Sorry to cut you off, but it also depends a lot on interceptions. So
well, but I mean, but even that,
Yeah.
James Bradbury has had statistically really a better season than Darius Slay. I love Slay. Slay's my guy. But like the Eagles cornerback, James Bradbury has had a better season than Slay in a way, and he didn't get voted, obviously. So, it's one of those things. I mean, I agree with Woolen. I agree with Alexander. You know my opinion on Trayvon Diggs. We've talked about this before.
Yeah,
I think he's a little overhyped. I would sort of agree with it in a way, not really. I probably would have stuck Bradbury in there, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an Eagles fan. Bradbury's had an exceptional season if you look at Pro Football Focus. In fact, while I'm thinking of that, let me look this up really quickly, and we'll get off the subject. But I'm going to look up cornerback rankings because I believe that Bradbury has had like a top 2 in cornerback.
I'm just looking up. So Geno Smith made it. Oh my gosh.
But I mean, look at the NFC quarterbacks and tell me who.
That is the weirdest combination of NFC quarterbacks. Hurts, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins. That's quite incredible. Shit.
It's definitely. So it looks like, from a corner standpoint, this is very interesting, actually.
Wait, okay, hold on. I'm looking up the corners. Let's see here.
So actually, Charvarius Ward is 3rd. I don't know if that's rate. I'm trying to look at. See, they won't give me. You have to pay for it to
Wait, Charvarius Ward is 3rd on what?
Well, they said he's 3rd in rank, but they won't give me the other ranks.
I know what he's like one of the top corners in completion percentage allowed when targeted.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that Bradbury was too, but Pro Football Focus.
We're talking about Charvarius Ward, folks, if you guys don't. Yeah.
I thought that James Bradbury was ranked up there as well, but Pro Football Focus is lame, and they won't. What's it called? And they won't allow me to see more than 3 players, so I'm not actually sure where he falls.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe he doesn't fall as high as I thought he was, but anyways, he apparently falls 18 on PFF, which is weird. Maybe he's had not as good, but I guess no. Take that back. He had a good first 6 weeks, but he's currently the number 25th graded cornerback on the season, but he has 15th highest coverage grade on the year. He's allowed just 258 yards on 58 targets, 41.2 passer rating. No, that's why he had a really good start to the year, but it looks like Darius Slay is 7th in coverage grade this year. So among all cornerbacks. Well, anyways, that's
we'll see, man. I mean, you guys still have that. To have those 2 corners is quite incredible.
Oh, there's no way we're keeping them past the year. And the real question is, now we have to ask ourselves, which one do we keep? And I love Slay, but I want to say that I would keep Slay based off the fact that James Bradbury, I think, is benefiting off of having a great guy next to him. We've seen that happen before. But Bradbury's gonna get a payday, and Bradbury's gonna pay his way out of the Eagles being able to keep him. So
yeah, no, I agree there. I don't know. The Eagles just brought in, but like the question before we get into it, the question that I want to ask you is if the Eagles, and I was thinking about this more, if the Eagles don't like win the Super Bowl or even like don't go to the Super Bowl, like what happens to your freaking GM? Like, because there is an argument that could be made if you're the owner. Hey, you didn't keep these picks. Like, well, I guess they have still picks to spend, and that's the
They have a
greatest thing about the
mass amount of
Eagles.
picks.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
it's like
No, he is
maybe the
finessed.
owner could make an argument like we don't have enough guys that we drafted on the roster, and a lot of these guys are going to be leaving. But no, that's not even a good argument because it's like most teams who have this much talent don't have picks, so you could make that argument. But the
exactly.
Eagles do have picks, and wow,
the Eagles are in a situation now as a fan where you've got to be very excited if it's played properly. We go into the season, I want to say, in the top 10 in cap salary. Now we have to pay Hurts, and that's the biggest thing. Is we're going to get a deal worked out this offseason. We got to get a deal worked out before Jackson, and unfortunately, with the way Kyler's played, he's sort of screwed up the market because Kyler Murray has not played as good as Jalen Hurts.
I hate that dude.
But look what his contract is. Kyler Murray's contract is so large that Jalen Hurts is going to want to make more than Kyler, even though Kyler doesn't deserve to be making how much he's making. But that's another conversation for another day. The biggest thing that what the Eagles have done that's great is they've got 2 first-round picks this year, and then they've got 2 second-round picks next year. So I think they have like 6 picks this year, but 2 of them are first-round picks. And I know a lot of Eagles are going to – I know a lot of fans are going to hate me saying this, but if I were the Eagles, I would trade out of your other pick, not your top 10 pick, but your other pick. I'd trade out of it, and I'd stockpile for next year. In fact, I'd try to get a first-round pick from next year. It's not going to happen, but maybe trade your second-round pick and your first-round pick this year and have 2 first-round picks next year because there's no need if you have pick 32. Might as well give it to someone in the first round.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's technically only 31 players going because the Dolphins forfeited their first-round pick. So there's technically that pick 32 is technically be the equivalent of pick 31. And whoever's pick 1 in the second round is technically the equivalent of pick 32, which would be the, most likely the Texans. So that's another story for another day. But honestly, the Eagles defense, the Eagles GM deserves incredible credit for what he's done. But yeah, he assembled a roster with quite a few people with 1-year deals, and that's pretty common when you start making these runs. Is those guys end up going off and getting big contracts? It happened in 2017 with the Eagles. It happened with a few of other teams as well. The one anomaly that I think everyone focuses on is it didn't happen with the Bucs. But look what happened last year. They returned almost every single one of their starters, and they still weren't able to get it done in the playoffs. So just because you can't
what they
return
always
starters,
say, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So
yeah, it's the most cliche thing ever, but in a way, you could make the argument that they returned their entire team, but they should have done more, right? Yeah, and that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I agree. But yeah, let's get into it though. The first topic we've got, and this is something that
this is a loaded one.
Oh man, it's coming down. It's a loaded one. But as we're getting closer, I think we're now in week 16. It is week 16. But as we're getting closer, the playoff races, especially those last few seeds, are undecided. And there's a battle. This is an exciting NFL season, and this is why I like the NFL, the best sport. It never fails to disappoint.
Exactly.
It's great. So my question to you is, who at this point is most likely to make the final few seeds for the NFC and AFC?
So when I was looking at this, I didn't realize how open
and what
the
top
NFC
matchup would want to see. I think. Oh no, I was just gonna say there's like the Seahawks, Lions,
You're good.
Washington,
it glitched out
and
a little
Giants.
Bit, so all of a sudden it sped
all
up. So
contending.
You're good.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's see here. So we
you
got
stopped for a
Did
second,
you just hear
so
me
I thought
on that last thing?
You paused for a second, so I thought you were done talking, and then it sped up real quick. There was a little bit of
no.
You're good. You didn't cut me off.
Yeah. So, anyways, those are the final 4 teams vying for those 2 spots in the NFC, and then in the AFC, we've got Chargers, Jets, Patriots, Dolphins. And then we've got the Ravens could even be in that bubble.
They
Hold
could.
on.
It's more unlikely. The Ravens are 9-5. So the crazy part about it is the Bengals have still not clinched the division. But
Yeah.
the way that it's worked out and this is why I was saying is the way it's worked out is the Bengals and the Ravens are almost like the Eagles and the Cowboys this year. It's not the same, but both of them are almost 100% going to capture it.
Yeah.
Because the Ravens would have to lose the rest of the three rest games, and the Patriots would have to win out, or the Jets would have to win out, or the Jaguars would have to win out, or the Raiders would have to win out, Browns, Steelers, all those. So what I'm saying is right. It's very unlikely. I think the Ravens have a 90-something% chance of making the playoffs. So are we going to focus on the last 2 seeds of each conference?
Yeah, let's do that.
Or
let's
each. Yeah. So just let me know. Who do you have for the NFC?
NFC, I've got well, last week it was the Commanders and the Lions, right?
Sure.
Because the Seahawks are playing the Chiefs, Jets, and Rams. And I don't think Chiefs,
one.
that's probably a loss. The Chiefs are playing for something. They're playing for first seed.
They are.
The second one is the Jets, and they're also playing for a playoff spot. And if you look at that Jets roster, they are a more talented team. Now, it all depends on Zach Wilson. That's what I was about to say. The quarterback is, my Lord, I just feel bad for Robert Saleh, because it's like what is happening with Robert Saleh is exactly what was happening with Kyle Shanahan, and still is happening with Kyle Shanahan right now. So it's like, I don't know. So like, I don't think the Jets are making it. But I want to say, so the Seahawks would almost have to win. They could lose the next 2 out of the 3, but that would they would need to hope that the Washington Commanders and the Giants, like, I don't know. I just don't think the Seahawks are making it. But then the Commanders lost to the Giants. They still hold that position. I think it's going to be now Giants and Lions. Lions, I had their schedule pulled up.
Yeah, the Lions play the Panthers, Bears, and Packers.
See, that's where I'm like, I think that's the best case scenario schedule that you can have. And then you pull up the Giants schedule.
The Giants have the Vikings, Colts, and Eagles.
I think I have Commanders schedule. Commanders is 49ers. This is where it gets tough, though, I think. 49ers, Browns, Cowboys.
Yeah.
And that's, the Cowboys the last week maybe could.
They're going to rest their starters.
Yeah, because the division probably will be won, and they're nowhere near the 6th. Yeah, so probably resting their starters, I would say. But I don't know. The Browns are still Wait, hold on. The Browns are
in the hunt. They're 6-8, and by next week they could be eliminated if they lose. But the Browns play this week. The Browns play the Saints, and I just don't see them losing. So my thought is more than likely the Browns are going to win this week and still being in contention next week. So that Browns-Commanders game is going to be big.
Yeah, so I would say the Commanders miss out, and you have Giants after that huge win with 8 wins. Like, they realistically only need to win like one more game almost on that schedule. And they play, you said they played the Colts, Eagles. Sorry, Vikings.
Viking, Eagles. Viking, Colts, Eagles. Sorry.
That's tough too, but I think the Eagles will be resting those starters that last week definitely as well. So that's 2 out of the 3s. Yeah, so I think it's going to be Giants and Lions. And I'll make my case for the Lions, and I think you would probably agree with me there. But like, that team, their defense is getting better, right?
Yeah.
Their offense, they started off the year 1-6. They've really only lost like
1-7.
one game since then.
Yeah.
1-7? I thought it was 1-6.
1-6, sorry.
So
yeah. No.
1-6. So they have been on a roll, and like, it would be a shame for that. They're playing the best football in December than all four of
Exactly.
these teams.
Well,
So,
you gotta realize that one loss is the Bills. Like that's a magnitude thing right there. That's huge. That's really, really big for them. That's really big
yeah.
for going into next season if they make it or not. It's funny because mine are also the Giants and the Lions. I analyze this from a couple of different perspectives, but the
Do you
way
have
that I look,
the Giants at 6, or I would have
I
the
have the
Giants at
Giants at
6 and
6 and the
7.
Lions at 7.
Yeah.
And so the reason why is because the Giants sort of have their schedule laid out for them already. They basically sit right now. The Giants' schedule is Vikings, Colts, Eagles, but they have realistically a 1.5 game lead ahead of any
Right.
other team. If the Eagles win against the Cowboys Saturday night, it's going to give the Giants a whole better of an idea on their roadmap. The Vikings are still vying for that second seed because they can't afford to lose because the 49ers still could get that second seed. So I just don't see the Giants beating the Vikings. But what I see probably happening is them beating the Colts. And then, there's a scenario where they miss the playoffs. But because I think the Eagles will be resting a majority of their starters in week 17, I have the Giants at 6. At 7, I have the Lions because their schedule is Panthers, Bears. And the way I look at it is I
Yeah,
looked at the schedules.
crazy.
Washington is out. Washington very well could literally lose out because or at least lose 2 of the next 3. And even with Cooper Rush, I could see the Commanders losing to the Cowboys. That's just how good Cooper Rush is in that system. And I'm not too thrilled. The Seahawks, they have the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Rams, like you said. They could lose 2 of the next 3. I don't see the Seahawks making it. The Lions, however, I think will win the next 2 games. And then the Packers game is really, really tough. They're playing in Lambeau. They could be playing with the Packers to tie. If the Packers keep winning, that could actually be the 7th seed, that game. So I don't
Yeah,
know if I want to
Packers
bet
are as
against Aaron
well.
Rodgers, but the Lions have been playing really, really good. They beat them already. They beat the Packers already, but that was at home. I'm picking the Lions. It's a bold move in a way because there is 2 other teams ahead of them. But the Commanders, I just don't see doing well. The Seahawks, I really think are going to drop the next 2. If the Seahawks don't drop the next 2, there is a possibility, and I'll say this is my flyer before I stop, is I could see the Seahawks being 7 and the Lions being 6 and the Lions being 7 and the Giants losing because there is a real possibility the Giants lose 2 of the next 3 games against the Vikings and the Eagles. And if that's the case, they lose 2 of the next 3 games, they would be sitting at 9, 7, and 1. And so if the Lions win out, they're 10 and 7. But if they're 9 and 7, if they're 9 and 8, they would be the 7th. And that's where it's going to be interesting because that Lions Packers game, I'm telling you right now, and I'm calling it, that Lions Packers game is going to be monumental because I really think that the Packers are 6 and 8. The Packers, if they win out and they beat the Lions, they may actually make it into that 7th seed. And then no one as a Vikings fan, I would not want to be playing Aaron Rodgers in a playoff game. So
Yeah. Well,
especially the first
Vikings
playoff game.
versus Packers.
That would be lit. That would
Do
be
you
very,
think the
very cool.
Vikings, if they know that either the Packers or the Lions the last week are getting the 7th seed, do you think the Vikings on purposely drop that game? Let's say like the 49ers almost win out. Do you think the Vikings on purposely drop that game to let the 49ers get the 2nd seed?
Well,
I wouldn't think you
they
would
could
ever do
rest their
that, but
starters. They could rest their starters. It would not be very good. It'd not be a very good idea because if they're the 2nd seed and they win, they don't have to play the Eagles. If they're the 3rd
right.
seed, no, actually, no, I take that back. So if they're the 2nd or the 3rd, that's a good point. You could see some weird stuff go on because the 2nd and the 3rd seed, there's not a huge difference. In fact, the 3rd seed is playing potentially even an easier team.
Yeah.
So
I know.
because I don't know if you told me right now which one would you rather play, the Lions or the Giants? I'd say the Lions, and it's because Jared Goff is one of the best quarterbacks since the last 3 weeks statistically, and 4 weeks. So yeah,
I
that's
think the
actually a
Lions
really
are
good
on more of
call.
a hot streak.
I probably would say if dropping a game, I don't know. I don't think they ever would. It's just not in the football DNA for any of those teams to do that. But there's definitely a case to be made about resting your starters and risking
I feel like that's
seeding.
illegal, right? Like like on
I
purposely
mean,
tanking. I
it's
don't know.
frowned upon, but it's not illegal. So
Yeah.
I don't think they would. We're not talking about playoff scenarios here. I just don't see it happening, but you never know.
Yeah. Top matchup you would want to see. I think the top matchup for me would be I would want to see that Vikings-Lions game, little rematch. That game, like you watched the highlights to that game, the last one that they played where the Lions beat the Vikings. That game was fun to watch.
It was a very fun game.
It was a very fun game. 49ers, the best matchup that I would want them to do. I don't even know because I feel like the most exciting matchup would not be the Seahawks. I feel like the most exciting matchup would probably be the Giants just because they can run the ball. I mean, the 49ers are good at stopping the run, but the Giants have a good defense as well. I'm trying to think like Commanders would be a good one. But I feel like how many views that game would get, it would probably be Lions versus 49ers because I feel like that game would be like a shootout almost. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, there's some loaded ones. It's funny because if you go into the second round, there's a case to be made that all 4 NFC East teams could be representing the second round. It's not happening, but there is a case to be made. If the season ended today, Commanders would play the Vikings, the 49ers would play the Giants, and then the Cowboys would play whoever represents the NFC South. And I don't see the Giants beating the 49ers, but that would be one crazy thing if all 4 teams, it'd be the first time in NFL history where all 4 teams are from one division.
You know what would kill the 49ers though is if that Giants 49ers game, the NFL put it on Monday night. That Monday night game. That would
I don't know if they
freaking
they don't
suck.
have Monday night playoff games, do they?
Wait, really?
I don't think
thought
so.
they did.
No.
Because I was listening to a podcast
so.
and they were like the 49ers versus Giants. If the 49ers played the Giants, I could see that game being the Monday night playoff game. I don't know. I thought they did
maybe
have Monday night
you're
games,
probably right. No, you're probably right. There is a Monday night playoff game. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
If I were looking at the best one, I'd love to see a divisional. So Vikings Lions, 2nd and 7th seed. Would be great because I think the Vikings
opportunity for an upset.
Oh yeah, always. And the rest of them I don't think are going to be upsets. I think the Cowboys will come in. Maybe. I mean, if I'm a Panthers fan, I would love to beat the Cowboys in my own stadium, and it's very possible after seeing what happened in Jacksonville. But if I would be realistic, the Cowboys and the 49ers potentially get the 2 easiest games. And the Lions are a team I don't think anyone wants to play. I'm going to compare the Lions to the 2020 I'm comparing the Lions to the 2020 Bucks, 2020 Commanders, where no one really wanted to play them and then they ended up giving the Bucks the biggest run for their money of all the teams, including even in the Super Bowl. Out of all the teams to give the Bucks the run for their money, Taylor Heineke's Commanders, or at the time Washington football team, almost beat the Buccaneers. They were the only team that year.
Oh, yeah.
The Buccaneers
It was the Super Bowl year.
Yeah. They were the only team to give the Bucks any bit of struggle. It was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it coming down to the last one. It was very cold in the Commanders or whatever stadium.
Yep.
And I remember that game like yesterday. It was so close. And then I remember there was like one like controversial. It was like this one controversial holding call on the Bucks receiver, or maybe it was a no call on I don't know. There was like some weird calls at the end of that game that kind of swung it. But I don't know.
They were really the only team all playoff long.
Yeah.
That gave the Buccaneers. And I could see that being the Lions. I don't think the Lions will beat the Vikings, but I think they'll give them a run for the money. Who knows? Maybe they will.
So. Yeah. Did we cover the AFC? I can't remember.
We did not.
Okay, nope. Well, real quickly, because we definitely need to actually, just we'll go on with it. AFC playoff predictions for the last few seeds. I'll start. I think it's Charger. Well, yeah, I want to see Chargers in there. and I want to see the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins have enough talent to compete with everybody, and I think the Chargers, as far as like quarterback carousel, like quarterback matchups, best matchups to watch, you want to see a Mahomes versus Herbert. You want to
Oh
see
yeah,
that. You want to
yeah.
see that's going to go through the roof. You want to see the Dolphins. You want to see Dolphins versus Bengals. Like that would be a really good game. So I think in the AFC there's a lot more options for these games. Like there's a lot more. Like I feel like the AFC, this 6th and 7th seed are like they're not nearly as good as the 3rd and 2nd seed, right? But in
Oh,
the
exactly.
6th and 7th seed, both would be upsets. And those are the two teams I want to see. Those are the two teams with the most talent, with quarterbacks, with just teams that could like really, it could be a fun
Yeah.
game for both of those teams.
So it's
Because the
another
last thing
one.
we want is the Eagles versus Bucks last year.
Oh gosh,
Just
no,
saying.
no, no,
Sorry to
yeah,
bring up old
no. I
Pats
mean,
again,
I
but
agree with you. I mean, that was that the Eagles were the best team I think to go into there, but I mean, you're playing with a team that literally was just running the ball, and they went up against one of the best run defenses or the best run defense, and just it. There was issues there. I was happy to make the playoffs, but
anyways, yeah.
that was tough. I mean, this is one of the first years where I feel like you could see some really seriously great matchups. You have the Titans and the Ravens. If the season ended today, be playing 4-5. That's a huge
Right.
rivalry in the playoffs. Then you've got like the fact that you could see like a Joe Burrow versus, like, arguably you could see a Joe Burrow
Yeah.
versus Justin Herbert. Like that's just awesome. I have the Chargers and the Dolphins as my two final teams as well, because the Chargers play the Colts, Rams, and Broncos. The Chargers are probably winning all three of those games. So I think they're pretty much a lock. The Dolphins, it gets a little tough again. They play the Packers, Patriots, Jets, and I'll say this again. This is similar to the Lions and the Packers. The Jets right now, the Jets' schedule is Jags, Seahawks, and Dolphins. If the Jets win the next two games, that final seed is coming down to the Jets and the Dolphins game. I don't think the Patriots are making it simply because the
Yeah.
Patriots schedule
Bengals,
is.
Dolphins, Bills. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's Bengals. The Patriots are
What?
not making it. It's too tough. But the Jags have still a potential, and the Jags' potential is it starts with, can they beat? And this is how crazy it is, and this is where it's just going to throw
Yeah.
everything into a complete madness. The Jaguars are playing the Jets. Whoever wins that game ultimately basically seals the other team's fate because they can't afford to lose another game. The Jets could potentially, but it's very unlikely. The Jags, if the Jags win that, then they play the Texans and then they play the Titans. But this is where the funny part is. The Titans are literally one game away from the Jags. So the Titans could end up getting knocked from 4th seed, and they could end up being the 7th seed. The thing is, if you look at the Titans schedule, I'm pretty sure they lost to the Jets. Let me look.
Let's see here.
I'm looking right now at the.
That's actually a really easy Texans, Titans. Dang, that last week,
But see, the thing is look
Jaguars
at
versus Titans is going to be really exciting.
look
Yeah,
at the
go
Titans.
ahead.
They play the Cowboys. They play the Cowboys and they play the
Texans.
Texans.
They
And
both still play the Texans. They almost have the exact same similar, except the Jags played the
yeah. So it looks like. See, the thing is the Titans. Yeah. See, the Titans beat the Jags. So the Jags have to win another time. And yeah, okay. So the Titans lost to the Chargers. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if the Jags win out and the Titans lose 2 of the next 3, the Titans would miss it. So yeah, but I've got it right here. I've got my final 4 would be Titans. I just don't see them missing out of the division. It's possible that Jags steal that from them. But if you're looking at the final 2 seeds, it's Chargers and Dolphins. I almost think it's a lock, but I could potentially throw the Jets in there if they can beat the Dolphins with that last game. So it's going to be exciting. We got a really good – like this is probably the first time I can say in a long time that Week 17 could actually be cool. Because a lot of times you see like players like not
Yeah,
resting. There's not a whole – but
you
Week
mean
17
week
could
18?
literally be Week 18, sorry. Week 18 could be the literal deciding factor for anywhere from 2 to 4 teams making the playoffs. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. I mean, last year was pretty exciting. You had the
And
49ers versus Rams game going into overtime and the
if I'm looking at
Saints-Falcons game. Yeah,
if I'm looking at
go ahead.
anything, it'd be cool to see the Mahomes versus Dolphins because they're playing Tyreek again. And you know Tyreek's
Yeah.
got some receipts that he wants to cash in. So
If you're the NFL and you're wanting those two teams to make it, like you're wanting that
two good
like
quarterbacks.
I don't know, that storyline and the quarterbacks. So if the NFL is rigged like everyone says it is, then you'll be seeing those matchups in the playoffs. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. But let's move on. Jalen Hurts, a little bit of a I don't know, man. This could derail the Eagles' injury. I do actually have the play that he got injured on right here. So I don't know. It's probably pretty choppy. These type of things. It's really hard to put stuff on screen. It's just not very good quality at all. Let's see here. Let me start over again. I recorded it on NFL because this is not going to be taken off for because I saw 22 films, so it's not going to be taken off for monetization or whatever. Is it choppy? You can't see it, right? Nah, dang it.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
choppy.
don't think. Okay, well, it's not really working right now, but yeah, hold on. Okay.
You paused there for really good. You there?
Man. Hold on. Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, I need I almost
choppy.
need to leave the stream because this okay. Golly, this is annoying. Anyways, I almost need to leave this stream because it's like this Wi-Fi and like do something on my Wi-Fi. Anyways, but yeah, I will start with Jalen Hurts. That injury, I think, like it's not that serious. But here's my thing with the Eagles. You remember, like, I know the Jimmy Garoppolo thing last year was a lot worse. He tore a tendon, right?
Yeah.
But you're like a throwing shoulder injury.
It's not a throwing
tough
shoulder
thing.
though.
Oh, really? Because I asked Doty, and he said it was.
It is not. The report came out last night that it was not throwing injury. It was not. Sorry, it actually came out Monday night. It's not an injury to his throwing arm. It's an injury to his left arm.
Okay.
Still though.
Yeah. Okay. That's a dodge bullet because Jimmy Garoppolo had it on his throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
And okay, here's the thing. If you're the Eagles here, and I'm getting like, I don't think he's going to play this week because here's why. Like, I know it's a huge rivalry matchup, but I think why the hell would you do it? I mean, you have easier games. I just don't, I don't know why. That would be so irresponsible if you're the Eagles. But like, I think the reason why a lot of coaches use this tactic, but the reason why Sirianni is maybe saying that he could play is, I mean, strategically, like that's something to fake. Like Kyle Shanahan, every coach does this. Like they'll ask, a reporter will ask you, is this player playing? You'll be like, well, maybe, like, I don't know, like we're optimistic, whatever. And then suddenly he goes out and the team has to prepare for both players. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like, tactically, it's a really good idea. Now, if you're the Eagles, you go into the playoffs, you have to, I don't know, you have to manage this because if this gets any worse, you're not only looking at like maybe surgery, but you're also looking at like the playoffs. You don't want this injury to be nagging him during the playoffs because now that really limits like what you can do with him. I don't know. You have to be really careful with this thing.
Yep. It's an ego thing. As a fan,
but also like he's such a competitor. Sorry to interrupt, but as a competitor, you have to save him from himself because he's gonna want to play if he needs to, like if he is allowed to. So, anyways, go ahead.
And I think Sirianni is seriously actually saying yes, he could play because he's tough has nails. It's not his throwing arm, but it could get worse. And, if he comes in there and he tries to play, the Cowboys are going to try to hit him. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. They're going to try to test that shoulder out. You don't want it to get worse. You don't want it to be nagging for the playoffs. From an ego standpoint, yeah, as an Eagles fan, I want them to beat the socks off the Cowboys. I want to beat the brakes. I just want to run them, just completely into the ground. But, from a standpoint, we need to win one of the next 3 games. He could rest the next 2 weeks, and if Gardner can't pull off winning against the Saints, you could potentially have him come back. I don't really like that idea. I personally would give him a week off. I'd have him play against the Saints, and then have him rest the last week of the season. But I do think there's a real chance he can play, and I think they're going to make 2 game plans, one for him and one for Minshew, because I do think that there's a chance he plays. Maybe it's not as bad as we heard. I know that Jalen Hurts in a presser said, look, I've gone through things this year that just haven't been made public. So when he said that, makes me think, look, I think everyone deals with injuries this time of year. Mm-hmm. He had a rest day. People were going to ask why he had a rest day. So I think they came out and said, look, he's got a shoulder sprain. But my guess is the shoulder sprain's not that bad. I think the main thing is, to answer your question, is, why do we see them run coaches up the middle? The game plan is to scheme the QB. If they run, it's especially to change the momentum of the game. I mean, a good run from a quarterback can completely flip the momentum. Like, there was this back and forth against them. Of course, I was at that game, so I knew you could feel the momentum. But the back and forth between the Packers and the Eagles, it's like back and forth, like no one was really breaking away. I understand they went up 14-0, but then they came back, and there was really no momentum. And then Hurts runs for this huge run. And it's like, that momentum changes. And so, and that wasn't really quite up the middle, but it was definitely kicking to the side where he could have gotten a bad tackle. And so the thing is if there's a skill there, why not use it? And I think that's why coaches want to run their quarterbacks, because if they're skilled at running, why not use it? The biggest thing is Jalen Hurts I call it year 2, because he really only started 4 games in his first year. But from his first year as a starter to his second year, he has done a lot better of a job running the ball. I mean, and sliding, but he's got to do a better job. If it's a 2-yard run, and I think that's where it sort of frustrates me, because it wasn't the first time. Like, this wasn't like a first run of the game that he gets hurt. It just wasn't working. And I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to hope that one breaks free for a big run, and then that changes the momentum, right? But it just wasn't working. And the pass was. And so my argument is, like, look, I get it. You want to change the momentum. But if the ball's not it's not working, it's sub-freezing temperatures. It's freezing. The ball's harder. The turf is harder. Why succumb your player to more hits? I do have to fault a little bit on Sirianni, because I really, like, even during the game, I was like, Sirianni, what are you doing? Run with Miles Sanders. Like, I get it. You want to have Jalen Hurts change their momentum.
My fantasy team was hurting.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, and my argument is, like, okay, why did this have to happen like this? And the way I look at it is, it's a skill. They're going to tap into it. But coach and quarterback both need to know to take it easy, especially, look, he's a franchise quarterback. You don't need to be running him up the middle. I really think this is one of those things I just have this weird feeling he's going to play this week. I don't like it. On the Eagles, I'm like, rest him. As a fan, I love it. But as a person who, if I were in charge of the team, I wouldn't like that decision. Hurts, I'm so confident, and I will get to this in the next question, but I'm so confident that I think Minshew can win games. I saw him play last year in relief of Hurts, and he played good. It's sad because he even played so good that he approached the coaches last year and said, hey, is there any way I can win this job? And they told him to his face, no, this is Hurts' job. And he took it like such a professional veteran. He's going to get a chance to play in this league again. I hope he shows off if he does play on Saturday night. I hope that's his ticket. I'd love to keep him around as a second string, but I hope that's his ticket to just go off and be great for another team. I think he's going to go off. I really do. I think he's going to play really good football. He's getting his favorite person back, which is Dallas Goedert. He loved Dallas Goedert in the 2 games that he played last year. I'm going to be stoked to see him play. He's a great guy. You can't help but root for Gardner. So.
Yeah. I think the Eagles, without Jalen Hurts, like, I don't know why. Like, obviously some of those runs were scrambles. 17 carries is a lot, though, and we've seen him carry it like a ton the last few weeks, like a lot. And so it's like, is that really necessary, man? Like, you've got this in the bag.
17
And that's
carries?
where, like,
Good
when it
Lord.
comes to the playoffs, like, this is why it's making me question the Eagles coaching, what they will do in the playoffs, and when they face these really good teams, like, how well can their coaches perform, and just, like, how well are they, and will they get exposed? Because I mean, it's been a really easy, like, not really easy, but it's been a pretty easy road for the Eagles so far. So I don't know. I mean, but the thing also, like, with Hurts that is so impressive is he has so much talent on his team. Like, you just throw it up to AJ Brown and he's gonna catch
Yep.
it. Like, you have so much talent on your team. So it's like, I don't know. I like MVP conversations. I know this is getting off on a rabbit trail, but MVP conversations, I think I would still do Mahomes or Allen. Well, I don't know, not so much Allen, but Mahomes, because I don't know. Jalen Hurts just has a freaking hell of a ton of talent. I mean,
Well, I mean, and
yeah.
I mean, I could go off. I love Hurts. I will say this, going back to what you're saying. Yeah, it's been an easy schedule. I've been really impressed with the defense. I think that's one of the reasons why I would say this is not a fraud team, because their
No.
defense has been very solid, and
Yeah.
their defense has played some tough quarterbacks. Their defense has played, Justin Fields is a good quarterback. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have a ton of weapons,
He
but
was
he's still a good
making
quarterback.
plays on
He
Sunday.
he
Like,
did. He
yeah.
made a play, and then they shut him down, 6 sacks. They have 50. They have the most amount of sacks through this away in the season, 55 in 20 years. There is a chance. There is the record, I believe, is 74 sacks. We would have to average, I think, 4.2 sacks per game to break the all-time single season sack record. And I think there's a real chance. There's a clear path to them winning that sack record, which would be awesome. We have 4 players that have 8+ sacks. The line is deep. People playing really, really good football. From a coach's standpoint, I part of me wonders though how much of that was a Jalen thing, because I like Sirianni and I frustrated sometimes when he runs Jalen, but Jalen likes to hit people. And so I think if I were Sirianni, that's probably a call you make, but then he slides after a 2-yard run. Instead, he throws his shoulder into it, he gets caught, he gets his shoulder caught up, and he gets a sprain. So
yeah.
I
Well, and the
will
reason.
say,
Oh, go ahead.
is to put it in perspective, and of course, you want to delete the last 2 years of Cam's career, but Jalen Hurts is now the first quarterback in NFL history to have 10 rushing touchdown seasons back to back. That's pretty impressive, because he's still got 3 games to play. He's also, Cam Newton is the only player to have 10 2-touchdown running games. He did that in 160 plus games. Jalen Hurts has 8 2-touchdown games in 44 games started. Now, you could take the last probably 20 games off of Cam's career. So you'd say 140 games. There is a real chance that Hurts in 50 games breaks the record that Cam Newton had in 150 games. So it shows you that now, of course, a lot of these are sneaks, and you can make the argument, but it goes to show you Hurts is a special quarterback. I want to give him the MVP. Pat Mahomes is close to breaking the single season passing record. And of course, that's with 1 extra game. So I'm going to be that fan that says that. But at the same time, I want to give it to Hurts. If Hurts misses this game, you can't. If Hurts misses this game, you can't give it to him. I hope the coaches don't throw him out against the Cowboys because of that. I don't think they would. I think that's the last of their question right now, or their concerns right now. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason why this question was worded like this, because it reminded me a lot of like what happened similarly to Trey Lance, and even with the Ravens, like Lamar Jackson, they do this. Like, I don't know. That's why I worded it that way. But it's just,
it is a travesty. I mean, but at the same time, if the skill's there, you got to tap into it.
Yeah.
Because you make yourself one-dimensional. If you have a really athletic quarterback, the game plan of all defenses make him one-dimensional. So if he can run and he can pass, make him run or make him pass.
And that's where like maybe it's not the coach's fault. Like, maybe it's just the quarterback just not sliding, or maybe it's just like the team taking away the pass and making you run the QB run. So I don't know. It's not completely on the coach's fault. But definitely there is ways to avoid it for
Yeah.
sure.
And if I had one question to ask Sirianni, it'd be, of the 17 runs, how many of those were designed runs? If he came at me and said 16, I'd have a problem with it. But my guess is 8 of those or 9 were probably designed runs, maybe
Yeah.
less. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. But 17 is, like you said, it's a little high, but I just wonder how much of that is actually the quarterback just taking off using his legs. Hurts has that ability to do that. So they've given him responsibility to do that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on and then we have this one, and then we'll quickly break down a few of the big matchups this week. But my question to you is, how confident are you? This is obviously moving into more of the playoff talk. How confident are you in the Vikings, Cowboys, and Chiefs in the playoffs after this scary week for all three teams? You had the Vikings leading the biggest second. I mean, that game was like, I wouldn't say the Vikings were. I mean, I didn't even think the Colts like had a sustained drive in the first half. But this is
yeah,
how the Vikings drives went. Blocked punts, two fourth down like the Colts stopped them on 2 fourth downs, and then you also had a pick six by Kirk Cousins, which was like he threw a pick right next to the end zone. So that was the first half basically for the Vikings. And so it completely got derailed by those few drives. And so the Colts were really like not in control. Like they were in control, but like they hadn't really done that with their offense. They hadn't really,
yeah.
like, it was just off of the Vikings miscues. So that was kind of concerning. But yes, they mounted the biggest comeback in NFL history, coming back 33-0 at a halftime, and then, or 31-0. I can't remember. But then
33.
33, yeah,
Yeah.
33-0. And then you had the Cowboys obviously losing to the Jaguars in overtime. And then the Chiefs beating the Texans in overtime, but the Texans were like the worst team in NFL history. So, how confident are you in these three teams?
So to answer your question, I'm worried if I'm selling them. I'm confident in the Chiefs. I've said this before. I've said this all season long. I even said it when the Cowboys almost lost to the Texans. Texans are a lot better than their team record shows. I would argue to say that the Texans are probably better than a few other teams. Because they're just like this team that just doesn't want to go away. I'm not worried in the Chiefs because if you have Patrick Mahomes on your team, what he can do is incredible. I don't have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl because of the fact that I think that there's just still a lack of weapons. But yeah,
Who do you have
Mahomes is
going? Do you have the Bills?
yeah, the Bills are my favorite right now. And I probably want to throw the Bengals in there. I think the Bengals are, it's not even a
Yeah.
sleeper anymore, but the Bengals have played really good football. That's another story for another day. But like, yeah, the Bengals are a good team. I could see very much a path for it to be the Bengals versus the Bills in the playoffs. And I'm going to say if it's in Buffalo, I'm probably going Buffalo because it more than likely will be in Buffalo. But yeah, those are the two guys that I'm representing the AFC. But basically, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm not worried because you still got the win. I didn't watch a lot of that game, so I don't really know the whole ins and outs. But I'm not worried if I'm the Chiefs because I've seen a pretty consistent play from them. If I'm the Vikings, I'm extremely worried. The number one thing is this: good teams would never have let you come back from 33-0.
That was embarrassing.
It is a feat of excellence what they did. They're a phenomenal team for doing that. It is really, really special. But because I don't want to take away from that because it is incredible. But you don't go down 33 points against pretty much anyone else and that happens. Someone had made a joke. They said it's clear Matt Ryan knows how to blow big leads. I have to laugh. I don't even know if it's really all
that
Matt
guy
Ryan's
just needs to retire.
Well, at this point, I think really if you're Kirk Cousins and you're the Vikings, you're worried. He's not played good in prime time. You know eventually the Vikings are going to have to play a prime time playoff game. There's a real chance that prime time playoff game is going to come in Philly. And if I'm the Vikings, I don't like that. They have a very good team. I think their one weakness is probably O-line, but they've got a good running back. They've got a good tight end now. They've got a great receiver. Their defense is probably actually sort of their handicap. They've got some good stars on defense in Harrison Smith and
their defense
Eric
is
Kendricks.
absolutely their
Handicap, yeah,
Like
100%.
Patrick Peterson was like all hyped up like after he made that game saving like Bills touchdown. I mean, interception early in the year. But I'm sorry, that guy is a lot like what Richard Sherman was in 2019. He was really a product of how good his like offense and how creative the scheme was and whatever. And then when you come to the playoffs, he gets shredded because he's slow and old. Like,
and I hate to say this, but I'm as much. I know we got back to this earlier on in the conversation, but I'm saying right now, if the Vikings play the Lions, I would not be just giving the Vikings that win. I mean, it's going to be a tough game. So yeah, I'm worried when it comes to the Vikings. I'm really worried when it comes to the Cowboys, and the reason why is because coaching is the number one thing. The Cowboys play calling is going to be a detriment. And I'll say this, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on this like 2-minute tangent. So I'm going to put you guys in the hearts of the Cowboys fans. 1:22 left to go in the fourth quarter. They're up by 3 points. They have the ball. 3rd and 10 on somewhere before their 40-yard line. It was good enough to where a punt would have netted you probably 30-yard line or fewer, maybe even 20, sub 20. But this is really where it is. And I've had a few people argue with me on this, but I solely blame this on Mike McCarthy. Now, Dak had a really, really bad interception. The second interception, I don't want to hear anyone say it. I will stand with Dak on this. That bounced out of his receiver's hands. It was actually a good throw. It was a freak play made by the safety. But the first interception was bad. But what I will say is, aside from all of that, coaching is going to be an issue. I don't care what any Cowboys fan. It's night and day better than Jason Garrett, but it's still Mike McCarthy. 1:22, 3rd and 10. You're up by 3 points. They didn't need to win the game, but with that throw, they were up. They didn't need a field goal. The Jaguars are down to 1 timeout. 3rd and 10. Run the ball. Run the ball either forces the Jaguars to not call a timeout. It takes the clock all the way down to 40 seconds, or you force the Jaguars with a timeout. If you force that timeout, you would pump back. That game would never have been gone into overtime. The Jaguars needed that timeout to throw the middle of the field pass to Zay Jones. It was a beautiful pass, but if they had not called the timeout, they would never have. If they had run the ball, they would have forced the timeout by the Jaguars. That kick would never have been made because it would never have even been attempted. And I argue this because I'm passionate about it. That was the worst play call of all time when it comes to a regular season game. In the fourth quarter, you've got the ball. You're up by 3 points. I think we lost Benjamin. You're up by 3 points, and Benjamin, are you there? Yeah, we lost him. But you're up by 3 points. It's a terrible, terrible thing. If you look at it from everything that I'm seeing, one of the biggest things is someone said, "What's up, Lawrence?" on here. I don't know who that is, but
my Wi-Fi is so okay. So let me quickly tell you the story real quick to get you back onto it. Before we get back onto the topic, let me quickly tell you the story with my Wi-Fi. There's basically 2 types of like Wi-Fis, and one of them is the really shitty one, which is CenturyLink, whatever, 5G. And then the other one is the CenturyLink 8203, and that one's really good. But the 5G one, for some reason, my computer, every time I turn it on, the Wi-Fi always connects to the worst one. And I'm like, please stop. I beg you. Anyways, go ahead with your platform 2. Yeah, real quick. Platform 246. Go check his channel. Really cool. Did a show with him the other day. So, anyways, go ahead with your
So Cowboys. The biggest thing is this. If you're Mike McCarthy, you've got the ball, you're up by 3 points, you put the hand in front of you. I'm so confident in their running backs that there's a chance that they would have run for the first down on 3rd and 10, but they don't. They don't force that timeout. And I could just see it now. Trevor Lawrence is like, look, I'm the guy. I am your guy, Jacksonville. 1:22, 1 timeout left. Give me the ability. I'm going to go down and I'm going to kick that field goal. And that's what you play for as a quarterback. They set Dak up to fail. Dak didn't have a great game, but the truth is, I don't think it's really Dak's fault. That's the worst play calling. Terrible play calling. So that's my little spiel. I had to get that off my chest because Mike McCarthy should. I told someone I was so harsh just to say he shouldn't coach another game again. Like, if you're the coach, you put the ball in your defensive hands. I don't care if you're down to your third string cornerback. They still have Trayvon Diggs. You put the ball in your defensive hands. You say, look, you guys have got a minute 22 left to go. Let's just say a minute 16 left to go. You got a minute 16 left to go, and they've got to drain the clock out. They've got to run that clock. They've got to make sure they can't run any. Everything's got to be passes, so we know none of it's going to be running with a minute 16 because you can't afford to have to keep lining up your own line. All of that would be passes. I would say, guys, and you know what? What's the hurt? They kicked the field goal anyways. It'd be one thing if they missed the field goal. They kicked the field goal anyways. They went into overtime.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
You got to move the ball.
Like what you're voicing is what a lot of people were saying too. That from what happened. I mean, I think the way the Jaguars and quickly, like the way that Jaguars, I think, beat the Cowboys was they like were throwing a lot of quick passes, a lot of screens, not allowing Micah Parsons to like get there
over the game.
Because they knew they had a deficiency on their offensive line. And this is the Cowboys' downfall, stopping the run. And they showed it that they cannot do it very well against Travis Etienne. And that is where I don't think the Cowboys are going to be a very good team in the playoffs. And Dak Prescott, I mean, he's still a good quarterback, but I just don't think he is the same quarterback he was. I mean, his mobility is definitely limited. You can see it. So it's a lot worse than it was. So,
that's sort of like that's my 2 cents. I'm worried if I'm the Cowboys because I think the play calling is going to become an issue for whatever reason. I mean, if you look at the Cowboys roster, the fact that they're not like a 2-loss team is a miracle. I mean, this team is so good, and you cannot blame it. You can't blame it on Cooper Rush because he went 4-2 as a starter. He went 4-2 as a starter, and that first
that's
game
a good
was really
point.
Dak's fault. Dak played terrible, so he really only lost one game as a starter. And in fact, no, I think he went 4-1 as a starter because Dak technically started that first game.
Yeah.
But no, this is a Cowboys team that has lost more games under Dak Prescott. They beat the Bengals. I get it. The Bengals were in a slump. The Cowboys schedule, like I can't give Dak Prescott. I said to someone, I was joking. It was sort of a joke, but I'm like, Cooper Rush is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. I don't think so from a talent wise. The truth is, I didn't see a whole lot difference.
I should have you and Michael Davis on the show together. You'd probably
I think that's dangerous.
Halfway.
No, I mean we've had some cordial conversations, but I think one of the biggest things. Well, I think one of the big. Think one of the biggest things is, in my opinion, Michael and I can have very civil conversations, but it really comes down to the fact that, I don't think he shared the same He didn't agree with me on the fact that there was a terrible call by McCarthy because he said he was trying to win the game, by like throwing that ball. But I'm like, win the game by throwing the ball 40 yards down the field. And that's my argument. Like, no, that's not winning the game. Winning the game would be forcing them to call a timeout and then telling your defense, look, we've held up our end of the bargain. We've scored 30-plus points. That should win you games in the NFL. Now it's your turn to hold at the end of the bargain. You can't blame it on your cornerbacks. They still have their number 1. I know their number 2 and their number 3 are hurt. I get it. But no excuse. It's bad. That's bad play calling. And I won't fault Dak Prescott because the truth is, at the end of the day, that interception was not his fault. Now, I probably would have been a little more conservative because they didn't need – I mean, they got the ball. They should have gone down and scored it. All they needed was a field goal. I mean – crazy stuff.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. So we'll move into some of the bigger games. We have like 3 matchups. I don't know. I was looking around and I was like, there are like big implications this week for a lot of teams, but the matchups themselves are not like, I don't know. They're not great.
Yeah, so there's only 1 or 2, right? So
yeah, there's 3. I had to muster up another one, but Eagles versus Cowboys. I know like you have to go. I know that that you obviously have a life outside of this, so you have to go. And so, but yeah, like probably a quick score and like breakdown. Because you have things to do, and I want to get you out of here.
You there?
What?
Oh yeah.
Did you lose me again?
No. You said I've got to get you out of here really quick, and then and then you
Wait,
just went
really?
silent.
God, I need to.
No,
I need
you're
to.
good. You're
I need
good.
to
Did you
fix
want
this
to give your
Wi-Fi.
analysis on
This
these
is
3 games
terrible.
first, or?
I think okay. So if the Cowboys, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I think the Cowboys, Gardner Minshew definitely doesn't like to throw downfield as much. So the Cowboys
That's true.
probably focus more on the loading the box because the Eagles are going to try to lean on their run game a lot more.
Yep.
I just think there's too much talent. Like I think if AJ Brown cooks Diggs this game, like it's gonna be a big telling game for like how good of a corner he actually is.
Yeah,
And I
it's
just
true.
don't think he's that good of a corner. So I think there's just too much talent. They have the run game, they have the offensive line. I just don't think the Cowboys get this one done, even with Gardner Minshew, because I think there are ways like the Cowboys can't stop the run. You load the box. It could lead to an easier throwing game for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the Eagles get this one done pretty handsomely. Let me see, 24, which is I think what they scored last time, but like 24-21. Well, not handsomely, but like the Eagles get this
Yeah.
one done 24-21. But hey, I mean, if you're the Eagles, you have to watch out for like you haven't played Dak Prescott this season. So definitely there's like not there has to be
Yeah.
more game plan into this game.
Exactly. Their
Than they
defense
did
has been
last time.
good. I think I'm very confident in the Eagles defense. I think the Eagles defense is, I can't go as far as saying twice as good as they were in the first matchup, but there are a different defense in this matchup. Everyone's coming along. Everyone's playing really good. This is a good team defense. I actually am less afraid of Dak than I am of Gardner facing the Dallas defense, which is good. I think Dak is going to have, he'll have probably a good throw or two, but I think he'll be under pressure for a majority of the night, especially now with Terrence. Especially now with Terrence, I can't think of their right tackle going out for the season. So now it looks like their left tackle, Tyron Smith, who came back, is trying out at right tackle. I forgot to even look at the highlights and see if that's what he played last week, so I'm not going to give it to that.
Yeah.
But if Hurts plays, I have the Eagles winning handsomely 31-20, because I think that I think what it will basically turn into is basically they're going to exploit the Cowboys' weakness on the other side of the field from Trayvon Diggs. So even if he follows AJ Brown, I think Devontae Smith goes off for 100+ yards. That's if they stick to the run game, because they're going to need to establish the run, short screens to get the pass rush to slow down, because Micah Parsons is a beast. If he doesn't play, I still have the Eagles winning like you, 27-20 though. So I think it's not going to be as defensive of offensive a game. Gardner Minshew still likes to throw the ball, and it's funny because they were looking at like statistics for like fantasy football, and they said when they calculated in Gardner Minshew starting, a lot of actual offensive players actually increased in points, and the reason why is because more than likely Miles Sanders does a better game. AJ Brown has a better game. Devontae Smith has a better game. Goddard has a big game because Gardner Minshew's not running. So, like, it makes them one-dimensional, but it doesn't really. Like, they're not going to lean on Jalen Hurts to run. They're going to lean on Miles Sanders to run. And Sanders has been a really good running back. So, I have them winning either way. If they don't win, I'm not going to be upset as a fan. I think that the truth is, if Gardner plays,
they don't need to win.
They don't need to win. But I want to win because I want to sweep them. I want to sweep them for the first time in 11 years. It'd be huge.
True.
It'd be and it would also be like, you know what? We went into Dallas with a backup quarterback in a game that Dallas needs to win, and we beat them. I would love to say that because then I personally would not be afraid to play them when we more than likely see them in the playoffs. Because if the playoffs ended today, Dallas is more than likely beating the Buccaneers or the Panthers unless something crazy happens. And the 49ers are most likely beating the Saints. I mean, the Saints. The 49ers are most likely beating the Giants. So it would be a 49ers Vikings, assuming the Vikings, even if it wasn't, it'd be a 49ers Vikings versus Cowboys Eagles. Unless the Lions were to win, then it'd be like a Lions Eagles and a Cowboys 49ers. But either way, it's very high chance the Cowboys are going to play the Eagles at some point. I would love to play them again and beat them so we can make it the trifecta and beat them in the playoffs. But yeah.
Well, and also like beating them to win the division would be crazy. I mean, that would be great. This one's in Dallas, right?
It is in Dallas. And the truth is the Cowboys are pretty much locked up 5th seed. If they lose out, they would be a 7-win team. And it's really unlikely that the Giants or the Commanders or they've clinched the division. They've clinched the playoffs, sorry.
You mean
So
7-loss team?
Yeah, they'd be a 7-loss team. It's very, very unlikely that they win, that they drop anything. If anything, they may be 6th, but I really doubt it. And I think they've locked themselves into 5th. So
yeah,
that's my score for that one.
My question to you is, real quick, how do the Eagles maintain a fine balance? Because you can't rest your players from now on if you win this game.
Can't.
How do the Eagles maintain a fine balance for a month of okay, we're going to play not as hard this game.
Yep.
We're going to hold them out. Because you can't be out of contact if you're the starters for a whole month.
So what I would do is this, and this is if I were the coach, if you put me in the coach's seat, they still got to win one game. They can't overlook that because that could get overlooked and it could get messy. You don't want to have to pull your players out in week 17 to have to play a game they should never have had to play, right? Because if they don't win this week, they should win against the Saints. But if they don't win against the Saints, then you have a must-win game in Philly against the Giants. I don't like that as an Eagles fan. And now the truth is there's a real chance they may have secured it by other teams losing, but I don't want to play that game. So I want to get this out of the way. But to answer your question, if I have a player who's got a hamstring pull, and I'd say, you know what, they could play through it. No, sit them. If I have a player who's got a shoulder sprain, they could play through it. No, sit them. You don't have all your starters sit, but you basically pick your starters. Say, okay, if you see that in the halfway in the game they're starting to cramp, sit them because I would give them playing time. I'd play it similar to what Sirianni did in the preseason. Everyone criticized him, but the Eagles are still one of the healthiest teams. And Jalen Hurts played one drive in the preseason, and he was not rusty when he came out against the Lions. It was a good performance by Jalen. So if I were Sirianni, what I would do is I'd play our starters, do preseason, and it's not going to happen. What I'm saying is not going to happen. But if I were Sirianni, I'd play him half the game. I play him half the game against the Saints. If we win this week, I play him half the game against the Saints. I play him a drive against the Giants. Now, I'd probably sit your starting quarterback against the Giants, but I play half the game against the Giants because the truth is, just get him enough play time to get hit a few times to just get it comfortable. There's no need for them to slug it through the whole game. Then most likely the Giants are going to need to win that last game. So the Giants have a lot to play for. There's going to be animosity. There's going to be hate as usual, but players are going to want to try to hit people. They're going to want to try to hurt people because if you can knock one of your opponents, one of your rivals players out for the playoffs, you can't tell me that's not going to be going through a player's mind. If I'm the Eagles, you want to win the Saints game because this is one of the rare situations where you beat the Saints, you get a better draft pick. It's very, very unlikely, but yes,
true.
You want to win that game.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and trust me, I've been circling that on my calendar all year long because I was either going to go to the Saints game or the Packers game. Very thankful I went to the Packers game, but that Saints game is great because it's one of the few chances where you win and gives you a better draft pick. So,
you'd think it'd give me a worse draft pick, but
you would think it's counterintuitive, but it's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. Real quick, Packers versus Dolphins. I want to say Dolphins get this one done. If it was in Lambeau, I would say Packers get this one done.
Oh, it's not in Lambeau.
Because it's in Miami. I just don't see the possibility that the Packers win this. The Dolphins are playing for way too much. If the Dolphins lose this game, they're almost out of the playoffs.
So, not necessarily. I think the Packers lose this game, they're definitely out of the playoffs.
True.
If the Dolphins lose the game, then they're
and I will say the Packers are winning a lot more games. They're playing better football. He seems to be getting chemistry with his receivers. Yep. So it's maybe Packers could get this one done, but it's the Packers defense has not been what we've wanted it to be this year.
Aside from Jair Alexander. Yeah.
And also Mike McDaniel was the part of the mastermind from the 49ers teams who whipped the Packers teams year after year.
Yeah, so he knows. He has a little bit of a game plan.
I'm going to say Dolphins win this one. Actually, I'm going to say high-scoring offense. Packers can't stop them. 31-21.
That's bold. I've got the Packers winning because I don't bet against Aaron Rodgers in this late in the season. I've got him winning 23-17. But because it's in the Dolphins' home, if the Dolphins run the ball, because the Packers can't stop anyone, the Dolphins actually try to run the ball. I know they hate to, but if they run the ball, because they like to have those air out plays, you're not going to get it with a guy like Jair Alexander. He's probably going to close down Waddle and Hill for a majority of the game if he's on them. I think this is a coin flip. I think this could go into one of those games that does go into overtime.
Right.
Yeah, I still have the Packers 23-17 because I just it is still debatable on it is still debatable with Tua. I don't know. I'm not totally sold on Tua being able to win that game. But so I'm going to go them. I'm going to go 23-17 Packers.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. And definitely if it comes down close, I would definitely rely on Aaron Rodgers to pull something out of the hat, man. I don't know. This year has definitely been a disappointing year for him, but Bengals versus Patriots, you can go first.
Oh, I don't think this is going to be close. I'm calling 35-13. I think the Bengals are going to knock the socks off the Patriots.
Yeah, me too.
If you can't beat the Raiders, you don't deserve to be going to the playoffs. I know the Raiders have talent on their team, but they've not played well this year. They played well the last couple
play
of weeks.
Was wild from the Patriots.
Well, it was just the Patriots probably wouldn't have won that game. I think the Raiders probably would have gone into overtime and found a way to win. But no, I think the Bengals, I think that this could be one of those games where it's like 35-0 and then those 13 points are just in garbage time. And I'm not saying this because the Patriots are that bad, but what the Bengals did to Brady in the second half, for whatever reason, that defense just turned it on. Yeah, I don't even think this is close. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be shocked. I wager as much to say that I would put $100 on the score being 30+ points for the Bengals. If I'm wagering any bet on the Bengals this week, I'm saying the Bengals are scoring easily 30+ points, which is bold, but I don't see it being close. This Bengals team on paper, if you look at them, and we could go give an analysis, they're the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Maybe from a defensive standpoint, there is some weaknesses, but offensively, Higgins, Boyd, and Chase as your three receivers.
Ryan's coming along.
Ryan and Mixon as your running backs. You got a line that was totally remade this offseason. You got a great quarterback. You got a tight end that is, pretty decent. Then on defense, I think they've got some issues on defense, but still, it's crazy. So, anyways, that's my little spiel. I don't.
Well, and that's a good point because, with the Rams, the difference between the Rams and the Bengals, the Rams mortgaged their future. The Bengals were actually smart.
Well, and they spent a lot of money on the O-line, and they're going to have some weird pieces because defense is still a big, big issue for them. And they've got now they've got Jesse Bates playing on a franchise tag. They got Trey Hendrickson, and then on the other side they have their other good defensive lineman. But yeah, I don't think this is close.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Everyone, this has been fun. We're gonna have to let you go because it's getting late there. It's 10:27, and I have to go eat some dinner.
Do you want to tackle that last question or no?
What is it? Did the Colts loss to the? Is it this one?
Yeah.
We could quickly do that one. Colts lost to the Vikings. Did the Colts loss to the Vikings remind us that Irsay should have kept Reich till the end of the season? I will say yes, because here's the thing. You don't change coaches halfway through the season. The coach, if you change halfway through the season, is basically learning from his offensive coaches. That was not a good move at all.
You replace him with someone who's on your staff normally, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, I know. And so,
I love Jeff Saturday.
But
what in the world?
I know. And I think that was a big mess up by Irsay, fire him at the end of the season, whatever. But potentially, this team still could have been a 7-win team or 8-win team with Reich. I think it was in this case, it was just Irsay getting impatient.
And judging by the playoffs, it was easy to fire him weeks ago when it looked like every single AFC team was going to be a 4-win team, 4-loss team. But you actually had a chance to make the playoffs. They weren't eliminated until last week.
Yeah.
And they had some games where they lost that were really crappy. They could have beat the Eagles. They could have, there's some games. A seasoned coach would have slowed the game down. You go up 33 points, you slow the game down. You play the most annoying football of all time. You're just stingy with the clock. You're running the ball. You're forcing. You're just taking time off the clock. You're doing these little crappy plays. But on the flip side,
33 points is like 6 drives. How do
Yeah.
you? I don't
at
know.
the same time, a new coach is maybe more aggressive, and that's why they were leading. I know there were some
Yeah.
flukes and there was some this. They don't have anything to play for. They were eliminated. Like, they don't have anything to play for. However, when you have nothing to play for, you have everything to play for. I've said this on the show before. Like, when there's nothing to play for, the players just give it their all a lot of times. If you're a guy who's like, hey, I want to get a better payday in the end of the year, or I want to stay with this team, or I want to be a starter on this team, like, you just lay it all on the line. And you've seen it happen many times before. I've said it this many times before. Some of the Super Bowl runs, you look at the team's losses. The one loss that the Panthers had was against the Falcons. The 2 losses that the Patriots had the year then when they went 14-2 was against the Browns, one of the losses. And so, like, the way I look at it is this. I say, seasoned coach would have said, pump the brakes, slow it down, play really boring football. But is it because of an aggressive coaching that they got up that high? I want to say no, because they were up, like, it was so flukish how they got up that quickly. But
they didn't even get past the
50-yard
line hardly.
Well, the bottom line is, the way I look at it is, if they score 21 points, it's 21-33. Then play a little more aggressive, or then start saying, okay, they could come back. But I don't know if I even saw a sense of urgency from the Colts. Like, they basically were like, oh, we're up by 33 points. Yeah. And it's like, and so it's 33-3. No, was it 33-6? No, it's 33-3, right? The Colts get the ball back. If they even score a field goal that game. Yeah, because it was 36-3. I think it was 36-3 is what it ended up being.
Yes, it was 36-3.
And they gave up 33 straight points. Because what it was 33-0, then it was 33-3 coming out of half. They only score a field goal coming out of half. Then it's 36-3. And you're like, okay, now I looked at the score on my phone. I was like, wow, game over. And then I looked like 40 minutes later. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I was in a basketball game. Wow. And then I come back and Doty's like, yeah, the Vikings were down by 33 points and they led, and the Colts led the biggest. I mean,
and you're
Vikings
like, what drugs were you on?
I'm like, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what was happening during my game?
Clearly.
So,
crazy stuff. But no, that's my opinion. I love Saturday, and I really would want to see him come through the ranks and be a head coach, because I think he'd be a great head coach. It's sort of unfortunate how it's playing out, because I think Irsay will keep him on. But, like, it's so odd how he came on. Like, is he going to have personnel? Is he going to fire people? Like, what's the plan here? I hate to say this, but is this becoming a Jerry Jones situation with Irsay, where it's like Irsay picks the coach and then the coach is sort of like subpar, but then Irsay sort of controls a lot of the moves? Like, what are we seeing here? And the truth is, Saturday would accept it, because Saturday's never coached. So get good at coaching experience and then go and find yourself a good coaching job. But, like, he's a Colts legend. I was telling someone this. I'm like, they sort of did him dirty. He's a Colts legend. If it doesn't turn out well and he doesn't ever get a coaching career again, is that something he's going to want? Like, I think he'll at least be an O-line coach, but I don't think he has an interest in being an O-line coach. I think it was just such an odd request that he's like, sure, let's do it. And his press conference was worthy of it was a good press conference. He said, look, if this at the end of the year is bad and we walk away, I'll have no hard feelings. And he's probably not wrong. And the guy was coaching high school football and was an analyst for ESPN. I think it was ESPN.
It was ESPN. I remember watching him on ESPN.
So it's like, I don't know. It was a weird thing. I really like Reich. I mean, obviously I have a soft spot for Reich because of the Eagles Super Bowl run. Reich needed to be fired. Like, if that was apparent. But wait till the end
he had demanded for so many quarterbacks, or 2 quarterbacks.
Well, we don't even know. I think really what it was is they were like, well, what do you want? Do you want to? And Reich just didn't want to draft someone. And part of me wonders if it's because of the Carson Wentz effect. She's like, hey, I won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. I can win, I'll tell you this right now, and I'll end it on this for me, but the Colts may be one of the biggest disappointments in the last 15 years. And the reason why is because when I looked at this team coming into the season, I said, oh, they're Super Bowl contenders. I mean, Matt Ryan is the building block, right? He's a guy who really was not a bad quarterback. And Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, a great offensive line.
All of those pieces have underperformed.
Yeah, everyone, not a single player has performed.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, everyone, this has been a good show. Thank you for coming on. And I apologize once again for my bad connection. It
Hey, it's
was
been pretty good 90% of the time, so you're good.
yeah. Well, it hasn't been bad the rest of the time, but yeah, so we'll see you guys again. I'll be back probably, let's see, Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, because I can do oh, that's nice that all the games are on Saturday. I'm actually super glad. Yeah, so I'll do a show on Saturday, probably reacting to the 49ers game. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll see you guys again later. Have a good rest of your night, and go Niners, and hopefully we
Go
win the
Eagles.
Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. Yeah.